This has been the desire of the heart of the Father from the beginning, to have a son in the earth. And not just a son singular, but a son who is corporate. And as I was reflecting what we were hearing this morning, and it is alive in my spirit, where our sister began. In Hebrews chapter 6 and verses 19. There we are seeing something different in relation to the veil or covering. We are seeing our hope is anchored in Christ, who has gone beyond the veil. As the firstborn Son of God. He has gone beyond the veil of mortality into immortality. And he is a man who came as the Son of God, 100%, and the Son of Man, 100%. But he broke the veil of the Son of Man, and the Son of Man fully is standing or sitting beside the right hand of the throne of the Father as a new man with a least selected body. And being there, he is a credible witness that it is possible for human beings in the earth who have been born of the incorruptible seed of God to overcome every enemy of God, including death itself. Hallelujah. And also we saw Ephesians chapter 4 and verses 11. How this man, Christ Jesus, when he went before the Father, that which was in him was distributed into 5 dimensions. What we call grace. And we learned that he himself, Christ, who is beside the Father, he himself gave some to be apostles, others or some to be prophets, some to be evangelists, some to be pastors and teachers. I thank God it is not saying he gave one to be apostle. He says he gave some to be apostles and some to be prophets and some to be evangelists and some to be pastors and teachers. Mark what was given to these, and you can see it from verse 7 is what was in him. Grace, divine resource. So he distributed it to the 5-fold ministers. What was the purpose of that? Verse 7 could be, we look a bit into that. But to each one of us, grace was given according to the measure of Christ's gift. This means the divine resource that is given to some apostles, some prophets, some evangelists, evangelists, some pastors and teachers, it is according to the measure of the gift of Christ that is given to them when they were called by him. But it was not given for themselves. It was given for a purpose. This means the fivefold ministry are like portals or windows or channels or conduits where the 5 dimensions of the grace of Christ is released to the body of Christ. Hallelujah. But you know, what has been happening is when God laces an evangelist, and an evangelist has the ability to draw the masses. When the masses come, because we want to manage people, we go back to Babylonian systems to borrow structures and systems of how you manage human resource. And we forget this, that when the Spirit of God moves in the earth and the people identify with what God is doing, the intent of God is to call people to himself. They be born of his Spirit. Therefore, the work that is at hand, it is to build, develop, nurture, grow, mature the corporate movement which has been born by the move of the Spirit of God into a corporate sonship. Hallelujah. But how do we do it? In a religious setting, we go back and borrow from where we came from. The evangelist becomes levirate. So it is no longer the people, it is about a man. The levirate becomes bishop. And the bishop becomes the archbishop. And very soon, we are going to see Pentecostal popes. But that is opposite the order of God. Because where we were in Ephesians 4, 11, 12, what we are seeing is why the fivefold ministry is given. It is not because of themselves. It is because of the saints. Let's go to verse 12. Why is the fivefold ministry or the fivefold graces given? It is for equipping of the saints, for the work of the ministry. Let me ask you this question. If a people in a church community or in a local church, their senior leader or their lead minister is an apostle, what are those people supposed to become? Apostolic. Is that not so? They will always have the sense of God has sent us in the earth with a purpose and a mission. Is that not so? But the question is, what is the purpose and the mission why we are apostolic? also give a case scenario where the senior leader in a local church is a prophet. What will the people become? Prophetic. They have a mission and a purpose and an assignment. And because they have become prophetic, then what next? Let's say we also have a church where the senior leader, the lead minister, by calling is a pastor. What will the people become? The people will become caring. They have concern for one another. They become pastoral. Therefore, what is their purpose and their mission? Or let's say our people have as their lead minister within a local setting a man or a woman who has been called as an evangelist. When the evangelistic grace is impacted on them, don't they become evangelistic? Have you ever seen evangelists who today they are having 1,000 people, then after a few months that church has 100 people? And when it goes out, the masses are moved. This means there is something way beyond the apostolic grace. There is something way beyond the prophetic grace. There is something way beyond the pastoral grace. There is something way beyond the evangelistic grace. There is something way beyond the teaching grace. Hallelujah. And this is why I want us to look at verses. Let's first finish reading verses 12. For the equipping of the saints, for the work of the ministry. So out of this scripture we can conclude why the fivefold graces are given. It is in order for them to pour what they're having in the saints. Are we getting that? But if I today, 90% of the work in a local church is done by the pastor. While else, the work of the ministry is supposed to be done by the saints. I will not say we must invert the pyramid, because I don't belong to any camp politically. But why the fivefold graces were given, it is to empower the saints, so that the saints can know who they are in Christ and engage into the purpose as to why they were born of the Spirit of God. So the work of the fivefold is to create an environment whereby the saints will be impacted by the apostolic grace, by the prophetic grace, by the evangelistic grace, by the prophetic grace, by the pastoral grace, and by the teaching grace. Then the question is, a saint who has been impacted by the five dimensions of the grace of the fivefold, what does he become? It's a question I'm asking. Because this is very, very important. Otherwise, if we will not understand this, and we are in the midst of a move of God, and there is a shift that has already happened in the spirit, though you had about it, though you are part of it, you will be left behind and you'll be backward in time, because you're not where the Lord is. You're backward in possession. You're backward in rank. This means when you speak, your word doesn't come forth with authority. You're just involved in church activities out of what you built by the grace that God gave you. Are you hearing me, ministers? You know, I heard of a man who left his country, went to a different country in West Africa, raised a work, monetarily counting was worth billions of money. And one time he was basking before what he has done before God. And it's like he was telling God, look how great and successful I have become. And then the Lord spoke to him and told him, go back to your country and begin doing what I called you to do. This is your effort. And this is not in line with what I called you to do. Then I have another friend here in Kenya. He sold a property, a family property, land. And he left where he was staying, went into a different location, bought land, put up a structure with that money. When the structure was complete, the Lord spoke to him and told him, leave these and go and submit to so and so. Then he asked the Lord, where were you when I was doing all this? The Lord told him, I was speaking to you, but you are so busy in the work of the Lord. But he obeyed. So he demolished the structure. And of course lost the money. Why is the fivefold graces given by Christ? Because they are given by Christ himself. And remember, Christ is the Son of God. It is for equipping of the saints for the work of the ministry, for the edifying of the body of Christ, that in till we all come. That word unity, the better word is oneness. Till we all come to the oneness of faith and the knowledge of the Son of God. This means the people who are apostolic, the people who are prophetic, the people who are evangelistic, the people who are pastoral and have a teaching dimension, that is not the end of the game. We must all come to oneness of faith. Hallelujah. Because the target, hear this, the target in the heart of God is not about making people apostolic and saying there is a new move of God. That is not the intent of God. The intent of God is to have a people in the earth that are born of his spirit, and these people are conscious that they are a sent company. They are in the earth with a purpose. They are sent. These people are also prophetic. It means they have the ability and the capacity to hear God. You don't need to tell them what the Lord is saying. Even when you speak what you're hearing, the Lord is saying, they only affirm it in their heart because they already know the mind of God. So they're fully activated in the prophetic. Hallelujah. And these people are caring. Why? Because they have the spirit of the great shepherd. These people have a burden for the lost. Why? Because that grace has been impacted on them. These people have been fine-tuned in their minds. They have the mind of Christ and the spirit of understanding because of the impartation of grace of the teaching dimension. And the question is, if they are within a local setting, does it mean just the Lord wanted good believers? The intent of the Lord is, even we who have been given the dimensions of the fivefold, we should be more conscious of this. That the intent of the Lord, it is not just for me to become prophetic or apostolic. The intent of the Lord is till we all come to oneness of faith and of the knowledge of the Son of God. So what is the Lord intending? His intent is to produce a corporate son in the earth called the body of Christ that is accurately or connected with Christ the head in heaven with exactness. There is a seamless joining and a seamless connection. This means when we all come to the knowledge of the Son of God, what will that produce in the earth? A perfect man. And you see here, it's not that the Lord is not conscious with gender. What the Lord wants to see produced in the earth is a perfect man. This perfect man is a corporate son. This perfect man must have the measure of the stature of the fullness of Christ. And this man, this corporate man, is not in heaven. This corporate man is in the earth and has the full stature. This means the spiritual rank of his corporate man as Christ the head in heaven is, so this corporate man is in the earth. He's an exact representation of the invisible Father in the visible here. Hallelujah. This means, just like the man of God was telling us, possibly been in prison in Nairobi all the years. You never move out of Nairobi. This man cannot be imprisoned by mortal life. This is an immortal being. And this immortal being is what the whole heaven has been beholding and want to see in the earth. And this is what will produce what we see, that the entire creation is agonizing and waiting with intent for the manifestation of the sons of God. Hallelujah. He's a perfect man. He's a man having the measure and the stature of the fullness of Christ. Something very, very important here. If you're keen on positions and titles, you look for status. But status without stature is powerless, Because stature is what gives you rank in the spirit. This is what enables you to shift things in the spirit realm. Hallelujah. Hallelujah. Let me ask a question. In the beginning, when God said, let us create man in our likeness and image, what is the next statement? Genesis 1:26. Let us. Are you seeing the desire of the heart of the Father? What you want to see in the earth? You want to see a man who is like him. A man who has his likeness and image, such that when you meet with him, you have met with God. When you see him, you are seeing God. Then God said, let us make man in our image according to our likeness. Look at the next verse. And let them, it's plural, let them have dominion. This means coded within man is the ability to exercise dominion. And if this was not important, the Lord would not have placed it as the next thing after creating man. So the man we are seeing in the book of Ephesians and the man we are seeing here, the intent of the Lord, it is to share power and authority with his created being that looks like him. Because the heavens belongs to God, but the earth he has given to the sons of men. And this issue of God having a son, and you can see it even in the book of Genesis, within the genealogies of Adam. Abraham was the son of Terah. Terah was the son of. When you go back to Adam, it is said, and Adam was the son of God. Is that not so? And I normally say this. Alan, I don't know how, according to the culture you were downloaded, how they name their children. Where I was downloaded, they normally name their children after their parents. So, if Adam was a Kikuyu, what would he have called his first son? Guy, God. Is that not so? Is that not so? If Adam was the son of God and Adam got a son, he would have called him Guy, God. Why? After the order of where he came from. When the last Adam came, where the first Adam failed, the last Adam finished everything. And I want to repeat this. Where Christ Jesus is, at the right hand of the Father, he is a man with a selected body. A man who is a living testimony that I have overcome every challenge in the earth. And I am here as the firstborn of the new order of God, of the new creation of God, and every son of God who is born of the Spirit of God should pattern after me. Hallelujah. God has a need. And God always, at all times, whenever the Spirit of the Lord moves in the earth, the intent of the mind and heart of God is to form a corporate son. And what brings that out very strongly is what we see in the book of Exodus. The sons of Jacob went to Egypt, a few people, but God had spoken to the patriarch Abraham that I will take your seed into a strange country. For how many years? How many years? 400 years. At the cross of the 400 years, and the man of God led that for us, their masters oppressed them. And God heard their cry. But when God came down to save them, how did God address the nation of Israel? What was God saying in the corporate nation of Israel? It is his firstborn son. He said, let my firstborn son go. So this means the nation of Israel was set apart for God as a people, the whole nation, as the firstborn of God. And God instructed Moses that every firstborn of man or animal must be separated and dedicated to me. Is that not so? And he said, the firstborn belongs to me. So it is set apart and separated for God. But he also went deeper. And we can see that in Numbers chapter 13. Chapter 3, Numbers chapter 3, verses 11. Then the Lord spoke to Moses, saying, now behold, I myself have taken the Levites from among the children of Israel, instead of every firstborn who opens the womb among the children of Israel. Therefore the Levites shall be mine. So we are seeing that which was in every firstborn was given to the Levites. So God said, the Levites are my firstborn, and they belong to me. Who are the Levites? These were the people who are ministering in the sanctuary. These are the people who are living where the presence of God was symbolically in the earth. Is that not so? The people who colored the materials of the tent of meeting were the Levites. The people who ministered within the tent of meeting where the Ark of the Covenant was were the Levites. Is that not so? But remember these Levites whose heritage is God, and they also belong to God. Within them is embedded the principle of the firstborn. And I asked this question. Some people was ministering last Sunday and the other Sunday. I asked, do priests go to battle? In the Old Testament, let me begin there. Were priests going to battle? Of course not. Are you in agreement with me? Were prophets going to battle? Ever heard somewhere a prophet went to battle. But you see, the priesthood amongst the people signified a people who are not living for themselves, but a people who have died to self, and they are not serving their own will. They are serving the one they have been set apart for. Is that not true? The prophets, primarily, their work was to open the eyes of the people so that they can see things the way God is seeing them. The people who went to battle in the Old Testament were kings. Is that not so? Is that not so? But you see, the way we have seen, embedded within the priesthood is the principle of the status of the firstborn. And this was a pointer of what was to come. Because Christ came as a son. This son was a priest. This son was connected with the Father. He could not say what the Father is saying or what is hearing the Father say. He could only do what is saying the Father do. Is that not being prophetic? There is nothing he could do by himself. He could only do what he was seeing the Father do. Why? Because he was connected with the Father relationally. Then we arrive to this question. What was the basis of authority of the Son? It was his relationship with the Father. And we know Christ didn't come in the order of the Levitical. He came in the order of Melchizedek. Is that not so? So he was a priest. But in the New Testament, and especially within the four Gospels, what the religious leaders were questioning was not the basis of his priesthood. They were questioning the basis of his authority. Is that not so? The crown of thorns that was put on him when he was being crucified, what did they write there on the cross? Who he was. Yeah? They wrote what? King of the Jews. This means even though they didn't fully understand his manner and nature of kingship, Christ manifested kingship. Why? Because he was the firstborn son of God. And you know, as a son, you have the right to what the Father has. And especially if you've come of age. Is that not so? So Christ was bequeathed authority by the Father. And it is very clear when John the Baptist baptized Christ. And Christ came out of the waters. Jesus Christ. What happened? The heavens opened. The Father spoke. The Holy Spirit rested upon him like a dove. What did the Father say? This is my son. Hear ye. Was that not repeated on the Mount of Configuration or Transfiguration? This is my beloved Son, in whom I am well pleased. Hear ye him. Why? Because the there is nothing he was doing on his own. He never initiated anything by himself. And I want to bring this very, very important principle when it comes to spiritual operations. Because many of us men of God, we fail at the first temptation. The issues of, hello? The issues of, what is corruption? Corruption is about, we bring politicians. But many of us, men called of God, we fail at the first temptation. And that level should teach us this one thing, that the children of Israel learned for 40 years in the wilderness. Man shall not live by bread alone, but by every word that proceeds from the mouth of the Father. This means a man of God, a woman of God is called a man or a woman of God because in their voice you can hear the voice of God. This means they are hearing the voice of God. And that is the basis of our ministry in the earth. Because ministry is the release of life from within. It is that which you've been given that you distribute. So two things that are very key within the priesthood. One is to walk and live in this consciousness as we walk in the earth that we've been set apart for God and we belong to God. And when we hear him, then we lay down our lives as a living sacrifice so that his will can find expression through us. This is the good thing with it. When you die to self, before the sight of people, you look foolish. But when you die to self, the power that raised Christ from the dead is at work in you. The very spirit that raised Jesus Christ from the dead is activated in you. Therefore, you live by a resource or power that is way beyond mortality. And because today we are laying the foundation for the next 6 days, two things, and I've mentioned them, that are within the Levitical order. It is a people who go before God on behalf of other people. Was not that the work of the priest? A people who take other people before God. Is that clear? Is that so? But these people also, within them, is embedded the firstborn status. And I want to do a few things in relation to that. Because within the Levites, are two dimensions. The Levites and the firstborn principle. And we have led scriptures in Numbers 3:11 to 13. So these two principles represent or involves, or these two dimensions, the Levitical dimension and the firstborn principle carries what I would call the principle of representation. The principle of representation. So wherever you are, wherever you go, whatever you're doing, we are supposed to walk with this consciousness. I'm here as a representation for God. I belong to God. I wholly belong to God. So within me, I am carrying the principle of representation. I belong to God. And this posture involves two things. Representation involves two postures. One, a priestly posture. Standing before God on behalf of the people. And this means if there is one thing that should be found in anybody called priest. And in the New Testament, the principle of the priesthood of all believers was activated when Christ said, "It is finished." Is that not so? So, the principle or the posture of the priestly dimension means at all times you carry on your shoulders the burden of the people before God as a priest. And this means as a priest, one of the things you must have as you deal and relate with people is mercy. Hallelujah. Mercy. At times when we come to the prophetic dimension, at times prophetic people are very impatient. Hello? At times, somebody who is prophetic will be sent to you to give the word of the Lord to you because they are hearing God. Is that not so? And many times, they will come with the word of judgment. And surely and truly they heard from God. Are we talking? But the same person who is prophetic is also a priest. This means his heart should be full of mercy as he deals with people. And many times when the prophetic dimension is activated in you and you begin seeing things, and truly you are seeing things because you don't have the capacity and the wisdom to carry the word of the Lord to the people, you're rejected by the people by the way you present what the Lord spoke to you. Because the Lord spoke to you. And after that, one is hurt. Out of that, you're wounded. Out of that, you can find yourself alone in the wilderness because you are full of insecurity. You think all people are against you. Hello? And it is good to be allowed people who hear God. Very, very important. But when you hear God, and God speaks to you and tells you, this person has this issue or that issue, many times we forget the God who has revealed to you, this person has this issue and this issue, that very God has the solution for the life of that person. So what one is supposed to do is to go back to God and ask God, what is the solution to this problem? Are you hearing me? Because many times what you hear the person you're telling that you're leading know. And possibly out of frustrations, they are wondering, who will deliver me from this situation? Now, when you go condemning them, then they will attack you. Or no matter what happens to a dog when it is in a corner. When you corner a dog in a corner, even though it was putting its tail at its legs, what will it do to you? Hello? Hello? But if the Lord reveals something to you, this is the beginning of you honing your prophetic antennas in a manner. When the Lord ministers to you an issue, you don't take the problem to the person who is having the problem. You go back to God and ask God, what is the solution to this problem? When you go to that person, you might not even tell them their problem. But you'll give them what? A solution. Because there is nobody complete by himself. Hallelujah. So, the priesthood posture is very key before God and before people. A priest should always handle people with mercy. And even hurting people, when your love is manifested to people as mercy, people will be drawn to you. What about when people come around you? You remove your belt. See, they will run away. And this is why you need the input of others in your life. Because nobody is complete by himself. So a priest takes the people before God. Then there is the priesthood dimension. Then the other one is the dominion dimension. And I'm fully persuaded this is the reality that God is and has brought us into the dominion posture. The dominion posture. Because the priesthood posture, you become a doorway to God for the people. But the dominion posture, you become the portal. You become the gateway for the dominion of God, authority of God, the government of God to impact the systems of the earth. The priesthood posture, standing before God on behalf of the people. When you go before God, at times you go because of yourself and also because of the people. But also when we come to the dominion posture, you are standing before God also as a portal for his power and government to enter the earth. And this means God wanted the Israelites to remember their firstborn status, his sovereign power to release them from the systems of Egypt. So when God came down, he didn't just come down for a nation or a people. He came down for his firstborn. He would have said, allow my people to go. Allow my nation to go. Let loose my firstborn. Let loose the strength of my birth in the earth. And it's saying in the same note, the way God demonstrated his power on behalf of the nation of Israel in Egypt, he wanted the entire nation of Israel to become a conduit or a portal for his power and government across the nations of the earth. Okay, let me put it in other words. And it's good to do reflections. Many times when we are preached to by preachers, we are pointed to heaven, how we should go to heaven, which is okay. Are you hearing that? Even how we are prepared by preachers, it is in order for us to be blameless before God, so that we can go to heaven. But we should understand also that as we focus people towards heaven, God is also focusing into the earth. Why? Because he wants to demonstrate his power, his authority through a people called corporate son. People who are having the firstborn light. And this basically means, as the firstborn of God, we must have sight of God's dominion power over the earth. As the firstborn of God, as the sons of God, as a corporate son, we must have sight of God's dominion power over the earth. And many times when you're used to something, you might think the reality of what you were born and raised seeing is the very thing that was meant to be. And I want to use an example in relation to that by Jacob and the two sons of Joseph. Jacob is old, but he has come to bless his son. Joseph was the firstborn of Rachel. So he came to bless the beloved of his heart. But instead of blessing Joseph directly, he blessed Joseph through his two sons, who are the sons of Joseph. Ephraim and Manasseh was the firstborn. Manasseh. How did Jacob pray for the sons of Joseph? And Joseph was a prophet, a gentleman who was very prophetic in this, that Joseph saw way beyond becoming a prime minister in Egypt. He saw immortality. He saw the days of Christ in the earth. And when he was about to die, he instructed the children of Israel concerning his bones. And he told them, I know God will visit you. When he visits you, make sure you don't leave my bones here. So when those who over 20 were dying in the wilderness because of unbelief, there were bones that were full of belief. And they were taken to where their forefathers, Abraham and Jacob and Isaac, were laid. And Joseph, we know he was a prophet. Though a prophet, when his father did like this, he thought, the man is too old. He doesn't know what he's doing. But though Jacob, his sight, his physical sight was failing, his prophetic sight was alive. And Joseph tried to collect the father, and the father said, I'm conscious of what I'm doing. And what Jacob spoke became the preferences of heaven, and it canceled the order of the earth. Hallelujah. What Jacob declared from that point became the pattern. Ephraim took the praise of the firstborn. And you see, when you read through the scriptures in the Old Testament, you will see the thread of the firstborn and the Son of God all through. And when we are alive in the New Testament, the man who emerges is the Son of God. That Son, corporate, is what the Father wants to see emerge again in the earth. And let me say this. Because of how we were raised and where we were raised, the environment, how it impacted on us. At times we think, as church, the people who should have authority to determine how resources are distributed in the earth are politicians. Is that not so? Is that not so? Hello? But when you look at a man called David, we see God raising him as his firstborn, the highest of the kings of the earth. So what is the intent of God? What is in the mind of God concerning this corporate son? It is for this corporate son to become the stronghold of God in the earth. The highest ranking principality in the order of the earth. This means this son who has the spirit of the sovereign Lord has the ability and the capacity to silence every other voice in the earth. And the voice of this corporate son is able to take the dominant center in the affairs of the earth. Hallelujah. And that is where the Lord is taking us. That is where the Lord is moving us to. Hallelujah. And we arise on our feet. Twasema asante, twasema asante, twasema asante.